Hey, everybody. I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today I'm going to talk about nature versus nurture. But before I get into that, I want to discuss a decision I've kind of made. I've decided to at least try it, and this is it here, me doing this live stream this morning. Because I did the long live stream Sunday afternoon, and it really went so well that I got to thinking about it after we quit the live stream. I had such a great time, and I thought about it. And um, when I do my normal videos, as I have, y'all can't interact with them anyway when you watch them in the afternoon or whenever you get a chance to watch them. So if I do it, if I just shoot my morning video live and you watch it later, you can't interact with it, but it's kind of the same thing. So, but it will save me a lot of time, and I'll be able to devote that time to other things, making the channel better in other ways instead of doing video editing. Like I've said before, I'm the only one doing this. I don't have any help. So, uh, the extra time I can devote somewhere else to other things, research and stuff like that, will improve the channel in other ways. So, yeah, I'm gonna try this week. I'm just gonna shoot my morning video live. Normally, I shoot my morning video um, at about 3 o'clock in the morning. Then 3:30, something like that, and then I edit it that evening after work and upload it, and then it gets it gets put on the channel uh, the next morning. So I actually shoot it the day before and then edit it and stuff throughout the day, and then make it live the next morning. So this way you'll just get it the same day that I shoot it, which I think would be pretty cool too. That way our communication back and forth, you won't be talking to me about a video I shot yesterday. You'll be talking to me about the topic that I discussed this morning. So that's another good thing about it. Um, but the bad thing is going to be that I don't get to do my intro, at the front of my video with the mute. Now I haven't figured out yet if I can do that. Like I said, I don't have a lot of time with work and all that. Maybe I can figure it out this evening or my next day off. Maybe they will allow me to put some kind of intro in there. I don't know, but I just have to figure that out. Uh, but as far as that goes, so that's why it's a little bit different. If you're watching, if you're going to watch this video this afternoon or something, that's why it's different. I'm just doing this live, just putting it straight out there. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll be more fun. Hopefully it'll be more interactive. For those of you who do stumble across these live ones real early in the morning, you can join me in the chat if you want to. I know that I've got some followers in Australia and Norway and different places, and the time's different. So I might catch uh, one of them vintage or Lake or someone like that might jump on here, stumble across a live stream. But anyway, just wanted to let you know what was going on with that. So I'm going to try to do these live. And if it works out this week, I might continue this way. If it doesn't, I might go back to you know, my old way of shoot them the day prior and then publish them the next morning. We'll see. But nature versus nurture. I was thinking about this, and I've heard that, throughout my entire life, nature versus nurture, which one is more, more prevalent, which one has the most sway in our lives? Is it our genetic code, our DNA that we inherited from our parents, or is it the way we were raised? And I never really gave it serious thought, honestly. I mean, a little bit, but not much, until recently. seeing all, what's going on in the world and stuff. But I was kind of the opinion that it was nature. Nature was the more powerful of the two in influencing us, our thoughts and stuff like that. If your parents are alcoholics, then you're liable to be an alcoholic. Your chances of being an alcoholic skyrocket and all this. And I always figured it was in our DNA. It was in our genetic code to be a certain way, right? Until recently, thinking about all this generational stuff and how us as Gen Xers, we would we would go out and explore the world and jump bicycles and just do all kinds of crazy stuff outside. And we wanted to be outside. That was the thing. We didn't want to be inside. Even if we did play video games for a little while inside, we'd get bored and want to go outside. Our mother would literally have to come out and yell for us or honk the horn in the car to get, get our attention to come back. Joe P. Hey, good morning, Joe from England. Hey, cool. I'm glad to see you here, man. How's it going over there in England? But we got Joe P on here. He popped in there and said good morning. I appreciate it, Joe. Appreciate you stopping in and taking the time to leave a comment. Just talking about nature versus nurture. Um, but all of us were like that back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, you had a couple kids that like to stay indoors or whatever, and that wasn't a big deal. But a lot of us, we looked for danger, we looked for a thrill, we were adrenaline junkies, maybe, I don't know, but that went across our entire generation. So I'm more leaning toward it being nurture now. I mean, these kids are raised. I mean, when I remember when I was a kid, it would not be uh, a rare occurrence to see a kid snatched up by his arm in a grocery store and whacked on the ass a couple times, for misbehaving. And still, in my opinion, to this day, there's nothing wrong with that. There are consequences to our actions. And I know, I mean, just personally from experience as a child, I know what abuse is. Not gonna get up here and cry about my childhood. I loved my childhood. It was awesome, but I got my ass kicked way more extremely than a lot of people have. But and then there are people that would have loved to have my cozy, easy life because their abuse was, you know, just unthinkable. So I fall somewhere in the middle, but I know what abuse is, physical abuse, and getting your ass smacked a few times for misbehaving is not physical abuse. That's called discipline. And what we get from that, even though I got my ass kicked, all right, worse than, let's say, beyond what my crime was. I was punished way beyond what my crime was. At least I knew that that was the reality of the world, that if you do something, the consequences may far out outdo and overextend your crime. Okay, the punishment might be way over exaggerated, but that's life. That's how life is. We don't always get meted to us the exact level of justice that we deserve. Sometimes we don't get any punishment. Sometimes we get way too much punishment for some little transgression. And that's how life is. But these kids nowadays, they don't learn that shit. There's no consequences for anything they do. They get to do whatever they want online, say whatever they want, behave any way they want, and there are zero consequences. And that's not life. And I believe that's wrong. I think that's doing a disservice to these younger generations by not whipping their ass. That's the way I feel. Yeah. Been nice and sunny, huh, Joe? But the kids are still inside. Yeah, kids. I read a thing that uh, actual prison inmates in prison, incarcerated, spend more time outside in the sun than kids do now. Yeah, that was some kind of study they did somewhere. Yeah, the kids just don't want to go outside anymore. And sunshine is good for you. That's another thing. These kids don't get any sunshine, no fresh air, just always breathing, inside air, filtered, and that I think is not good for the immune system. Always breathing, not coming in contact with stuff that kind of toughens up your immune system. It's just makes us weak as a species. So yeah, but I think that ass whoopings served us well, even when they went overboard sometimes. Now, some abuse is just too much, and some people, go just too far, like my father did. But still, having said that, I think I would choose. No, I know I would choose uh, out and out abuse over, over nothing, over no consequences at all for my actions, because I would still be messed up in the head if I had no consequences for my actions. I still wouldn't, I'd still be fighting that stuff where I don't know, that at least knowing that there are consequences for your actions when you face the world, then at least you're prepared on some level. Mentally, you're prepared for, hey, if I do this stupid thing, then there's liable to be some consequences. These kids they don't have that. I mean, not in school, not at home, nowhere. There's just no consequences for their actions. As children, if you get caught whacking your kid on the butt, if you wax to get his attention and to get him to sit down and behave, somebody's liable to call the damn cops on you. Most likely will. So, yeah, I mean, I see kids nowadays just running buck wild and doing shit that I wouldn't have thought of doing when I was a kid, because I knew that there were consequences, number one. And part of that is that parents just uh, don't care anymore, I guess. And the other part of that is that they're afraid of being punished themselves. If they're out in public with a kid and they discipline their kid in any way, they'll get it, they'll liable to go to jail if they dole out any physical punishment or any physical discipline, and they'll get harsh looks and judgment if they even talk harshly to their kid. And that's just a societal thing, I think, a cultural thing, that I another place where shit has gone the needle has gone from horrible to pretty good to horrible, back to horrible on the other end. So back in the 50s and stuff, there was nobody gave a shit. You could just beat your kids all you wanted. You know what I mean? Back in the 50s, nobody called the cops on you for beating a kid. Then we got to 80s and 90s and stuff where you did some discipline. Child abuse was not cool in the 80s. It was not, everybody knew you don't beat your kids severely. But then in the 90s, it started, that needle just kept on swinging toward the late 90s and early 2000s. They started giving out participation trophies and coddling these kids in every way imaginable. Now they just let them believe that they're cats, and supply them with litter boxes in the bathroom and all this weird shit. They've just gone way too far with it. And it's just doing the kids a disservice. I mean, honestly, that kid's not going to remember a decent, uh, well well done and moderate ass whooping, he will probably appreciate it as an adult. But that's not gonna ruin his life. A spanking is not gonna ruin a kid's life. We all know it. But for some reason, we as society as a whole has gotten judgmental over this shit, and it's not serving these kids well. And that is why they behave that way now. They behave the way they do. There's no consequences for their actions. There's one where I read a thing that some gal was on OnlyFans or something, and her kid was getting picked on so much because his buddies and stuff and the other kids in his school were looking at his mom on OnlyFans, and then I guess showing him pictures of his mom and stuff and just razzing him so hard that he ended up self-terminating this kid's son. Okay. Now that kicks into his mom is younger, and she didn't think about any consequences for her actions, none. And she actually lost her child over it. Yes, that's an extreme example, but it's the same. She saw no consequences for her actions. She's up there doing this stuff, selling her body online, which if a woman wants to do that or a guy, then somebody wants to do that, fine, whatever. But there are consequences to that shit. There are consequences to everything we do. I'm not giving a moral judgment on people who do whatever they have to do to survive. I'm not judging anybody. I don't give a shit what anybody does online. I don't have to watch it, but there are consequences to our actions, and people need to understand that before they start doing this shit. Maybe it's not a great idea to get an OnlyFans thing if you've got kids, young, kids old enough, kids, period. I don't know. That just, when I think about that, I don't know. I just, not real, not for any moral reason, just for the sake of the child, just for your child's sake. Having their mother or father on there doing that shit is probably not too cool. It's not a real fun experience to have other kids in your class looking at your one or both of your parents on there doing some shit like that. So I don't know, but have at it. For those young people who are doing that stuff with kids, it's up to you. But anyway, like I said, I'm not judging anybody. I don't give a shit. Do what y'all want. I'm just saying there are consequences to our damn actions. And these young people need to understand that. And that's one thing I think we've lost. And that's part of the nurture thing. They're being raised up. Lake, how's it going, buddy? Over there in Norway. I know where you are, you Viking. uh, yeah, Joe. You got your fair share of ass whippings too, huh? Yeah, most of us did. And it just I'm a better person for it. I'm not a good person. I try to be. I'm not up here saying I'm a good person or I'm righteous or I'm awesome or anything. I'm just saying I think I'm better having a few ass whoopings than not, than just thinking that there was no consequences for my actions. You know what I mean? I can't imagine growing up like that. It's hard for me to put myself in that place. Uh, that it was just those lessons as a kid, just get my ass kicked once in a while were valuable. They taught me about life. Life's a bitch. Life's not a free ride, and where, there are no consequences for my actions. I get to do what I want, say what I want, to whom I want, when I want, and nothing comes of it ever. That's not life. Something comes of everything every single time, all the time. It's always coming at you when you least expect it. That's life. And for these kids to grow up thinking that, I don't know, there aren't any consequences is just, it's a disservice. It makes their lives harder, and they would be thankful for a couple ass whoopings if they got them. If I had to, I'm just saying, if I had to choose my way, I'd take an ass whooping. But yeah, and I think that's proof that just the way these kids are now and the way we were back then is proof of the nurture thing. Nurture has vastly more influence on the way we behave and who we grow up to be than I think I personally gave credit to, throughout the years. I thought that our DNA had more to do with it. You took after your father or your mother or whatever because you were, uh, you just got their genes. But I see too much of this stuff happening, and it's because of the way they're raised. It's because of the way we were raised. That's why we're the way we are. Uh, we're we're tougher and shrug stuff off better because of the way we were raised. Sticks and stones will break my bones. Words will never hurt me. That's what we were taught. We were sent outside, and some of us weren't allowed back in for, all day, all summer long, just outside. Some of us escaped outside and didn't want to come back in, where I was somewhere in the middle. A lot of times I'd get kicked outside as a kid, but most of the time I would be gone before my parents even woke up, and I wouldn't be back until, till the mosquitoes started eating me alive. So, just because I didn't want to get in trouble inside, I'd get my ass kicked for doing something, spill some milk or something or Kool-Aid and get my ass kicked. So when I was outside out in the woods running around, I couldn't get in any trouble. So, yeah. And uh, there's a real element in there that I think I overlooked for many years in the nurture aspect of it. These kids are becoming who they're raised to be. They're becoming who they are taught to be, just like we were. And I think that's a pretty uh almost a fact now, you know, that the whole nature versus nurture argument is basically over. From Gen X to Gen Z, I think we figured that one out. There's a whole lot of room for debate there, you know, because they've got a lot of the same DNA we do, but they're nothing like us. Yeah, soft as drugstore cotton and uh just crazy. And that's another thing, that self-deletion thing, right? I mean, it happened back then. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that nobody did that back then, but I don't remember it being like a real, like an epidemic or anything. So we used to get our asses kicked. A lot of us were abused, but we never went down that road. Not all of us, but a lot of us. We didn't go down that road. We dealt with it and moved on with life. These kids nowadays aren't. They're not abused. They're not, not physically anyway. And they've got a real problem with that. They've got a real mental health problem. And they're turning to that a lot more than we ever did. Not saying, I don't know if it's an epidemic or whatever. I didn't look at the stats because this thought just came to me. So I'm not speaking from a scholarly point of view here, but I know it's a lot more prevalent nowadays, and there's a lot less abuse, physical abuse. So what's that tell us? Nowadays, anybody, a kid gets sad or mad or whatever, they want to rush him to the therapist or the psychologist or something and give him a pill. I don't. I think he just needs his ass whooped and taught that you gotta toughen up and accept life. That's what you do. You don't get to hide away from life and take a pill that put some kind of buffer between you and life, or some kind of buffer between you and your emotions. You feel that shit, you stuff it down, or you let it out and you go on with your damn day and do what you need to do. The bills still need to get paid no matter what the hell you're feeling, or the bills are still there. Nobody gives a shit. And these kids being taught that every time they feel something, they get to get the day off of school and go to the therapist. And you know what I'm saying? That's not good, I don't think. That's almost getting a reward for feeling bad, rewarding these children for feeling bad and for getting depressed and shit. No, I don't agree with it. Now, having said that, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not, but just looking at it from a common sense point of view, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense from what I can see. Uh, yeah. Oh, Keith. Hey, Keith. Where you at, Keith? Single Polish mother, oldest of five, sticks and stones, ashtrays, spoons. Yeah. No, I was raised by a single father. And, no, he didn't. He wasn't one for words. It was all, physical. He didn't verbally abuse us. No, I don't remember him verbally abusing us. But yeah, but a lot of mothers would throw shit back then. I remember that. Yeah. I remember being at my friend's house or something, and my friend would smart off, or their shoe would come whizzing by. Yeah. Yeah. I think Eddie Murphy had a skit about that, where she would throw a shoe like a boomerang, his mom would. Oh, all right. So, Keith, you're in Wisconsin, huh? So you're just an early riser like me. Let me see what time we got. All right. But yeah, I was talking about nature versus nurture, Keith, and how this nurture thing is basically just how it's changing this younger generation and just making them weak and soft, from my point of view. I mean, I know these younger kids, they think they're hardcore and tough and shit. I know. But yeah, no, they're not. They're not. They wouldn't. I would like to see, the toughest of them go back and just hang out with us in the 80s or the 70s for one day. They they wouldn't even come outside with us. We'd all be outside and they'd be sitting in there on the couch crying. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah, that whole thing though, with this new generation and the way people are raising kids, I have a hard time blaming individual parents. I have a hard time with that, because it's the same thing with women and feminism and all that. Uh, there are too many external factors. A lot of women would have chosen to stay home and raise their kids and that kind of stuff, right? Talking about the feminism thing. But they were pressured by economically and by society to get out and enter the workforce and become, basically, robots like us men have been forever. And the women were forced to join us, even if they didn't want to. All power to the ones who did want to, who that was their thing, or that is their thing, or whatever. More power to you. But I just disagree with the idea of society forcing the ones into the workforce who didn't want to go. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with this rearing of children. I don't blame the individual parents fully because you basically can't even discipline your kid in the privacy of your own home now because the kid's liable to record the shit. You know what I mean? There's no telling what they're being told in school by their friends, by the neighbors, or whoever. Your kid's liable to record the shit on their phone or something. You know what I mean? And you still go to jail. So those kind of pressures, not only does society just look down and completely frown on discipline now, disciplining your child, but there's a risk of being penalized for it and being arrested and having your children taken away just for teaching them the difference between right and wrong, teaching them that there are consequences for their actions. So I don't I just have a hard time blaming individual parents when they've got so much pressure from society and from institutions that it makes it almost impossible nowadays, to keep children and to stay out of jail and to give them a good ass whooping when they need it. But yeah, so that back to my point, um, Keith and Joe are chiming in here. Yeah, yeah, I was the oldest too, and yeah, I caught the brunt of it too. Although nobody was completely exempt in my house, but yeah, I feel like I caught the brunt of it anyway. Probably my brothers and sisters feel like they caught the brunt of it, um, but yeah, I just have a hard time uh, blaming individual parents because when it's a societal thing, you know, it's societal pressure. But there's definitely a problem that I see with this, this nurturing. It's gone clear to the wrong side of the spectrum, clear to the other side. Uh, and I think we need to get back in so many different ways. We just need to get back to a happy medium. Teach these kids discipline and responsibility and there are consequences for their actions because there are consequences for your actions throughout life. None of us can escape it. None of us. We do some dumb shit, there are consequences. Today, I'm 54 years old, about to be 55, and I do go out there and do some dumb shit. I'm gonna pay the price. So I can't even imagine what it's like growing up just being taught that there aren't any consequences. Oh, I can just do whatever I want, say whatever I want, and nothing will happen to me. Nothing bad. And then they're all surprised when something bad does happen. Yeah, Keith, that was a different time, man. It was back, yeah, and that's another thing that society used to take care of a lot of stuff, right? Just our and still does, but just in a different way. They're taking care of the wrong stuff. But society used to look down and frown on uh, cheaters. If you cheated on your wife or your husband, you would get ostracized from your social group. They didn't want to, back in the 50s and shit. I'm reading a book that was written back in the 40s, I think. Atlas Shrugged. I don't know how many of you have watched it or read it, but yeah, in there, they say that somebody's saying, one of the characters is saying that they think there's such a moral decline and all this because the divorce rate is above 5%. 5% back then. That was just unthinkable that the divorce rate would crack 5%. And now I'm looking at that, it's like, "Holy shit, I wish our divorce rate was 5%." You know how much better our world would be? How awesome that would be? But anyway, is that my point in that is stuff has changed so much how society views things. You know what I mean? Now it's nothing. You cheat on your spouse, nobody cares. There's no consequences for that, no social consequences. But if you try to discipline your child, oh, yeah, that's no, you can't do that. We can't allow that as a society. We can't allow people to teach their children the difference between right and wrong. We can't allow people to teach their children that there are consequences for their actions. We can't do that. But, oh, yeah, porn? Oh, yeah, go ahead. That's perfectly acceptable. A serial cheater on your wife? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no, that's cool. We don't we don't mind that at all, and all this other stuff. And again, I'm not it's not necessarily a moral condemnation of society, but just a condemnation of what we want, what is best for society as a group, as a whole. What is better for society? Whole, families raising good children that know the difference between right and wrong and know that there are consequences for their actions, or just a shitload of single mothers shaking their ass on OnlyFans. And so like there's no moral judgment, but you gotta, when you're just looking at straight up black and white X's and O's, one is better for society and the other way is worse for society. And we are choosing worse. As a society, as a group, as a whole, we are choosing worse every single time. And we as Gen X, we know that back then it was good. It was cool. It was great to be a kid. Even even a dirt poor kid, even a kid, you know what I'm saying? Even a kid that got his ass beat regular, you had freedom, and you knew there were consequences for your actions, and you were ready to face the world. And now the world changed on us. The world completely changed. The world we were ready to face does not exist anymore. So we've had to adapt and overcome. That's for damn sure. Yeah, being a parent is definitely difficult, like, yeah, in the digital world, that's crazy. It's just crazy. These kids, they put on headphones and they go into that digital world and just shoot each other, and teabag each other and shit and whatever, and that whole thing. And there's no telling, you hear that a lot, young, impressionable minds, but that's exactly what they are. They're impressionable and they hear this stuff, and somebody presents even these just insane ideas. But as I've done in the past with my twisted logic uh, videos that I did, you can see how they make them sound uh, logical. They make them sound okay on the face. On the face of it, it sounds good. I mean, okay. I mean, you have to stop and think about it for a second before you realize this is insane. You know what I mean? A kid won't do that. They'll just take what a grown up tells them. That's, I know because I used to. I could have, and all of y'all, I know it. If they would have taught us in school that the earth was flat, we'd believe that the earth was flat today. The reason we believe the earth is round is not because we flew out on a rocket ship and looked down at it. It's because that's what we were taught. And that's just the way it is. So all this flat earth stuff is shit. Honestly, I'm about 99% sure that the earth is a globe because I've flown in an airplane to the other side of the planet. And I watched out the window. I don't know how else to explain it. So, but but there is a lot of stuff like that we just we just understand because that's the way we were taught as kids. And this shit these kids are being taught online now on all this TikTok and all this weird shit that they're being taught online, they're just taking it. They're just absorbing it like a sponge. And that's the way the world is. Just like this thing with no discipline. There aren't any consequences to my actions because I've done shit over and over and over again for as long as I can remember, and I face no consequences. I wanted to shit in a litter box in the bathroom, and I got to. I shit in a litter box, and hell, everybody, not only that, I felt better because everybody thought I was special. Everybody treated me special because I acted like a cat and shit in a litter box. So not only are there no bad consequences for bad behavior, there are actually, good consequences for bad behavior now. It's insane. It's completely backwards. Yeah, Keith. That's when my nephews are the same way. Keith talks about his grandson just knows, you don't mess with grandpa. Grandpa's serious. He's about his business. And that's how all my nephews are with me. But my brothers and sisters, they didn't raise, you know, they they didn't raise these kids like this, like I'm talking about here. My nephews, they're late, younger millennials and older Gen Z. And but they raised them right. They're good kids with level heads on their shoulders. They don't, you know. So, but still, I never hit any of my nephews or anything. But they knew, they just knew that there were going to be consequences. They were going to have to go stand in the corner or something. There were going to be consequences just because I had patience and I had follow through, and I would do what I said I was going to do. If I said, that you're going to go stand in the corner if you do this, then he's going to go stand in the corner if he did it. Period. He knew that Uncle Jesse wasn't messing around. You know what I mean? I wasn't gonna get sidetracked and forget or anything like that. So yeah. So they knew that I didn't play. So they respected that. And I think they appreciate it now, looking back, they appreciate that because I taught them that there are consequences. If they did what I said not to do, then they would face the consequences for those actions. And now they realize that there are consequences for their actions. I just think that's an important thing that as a society as a whole that we have forgotten about to teach the kids. That's as important as math or spelling or whatever. And it's just not being taught to them anymore. Yeah, Keith. Yeah, follow up. You can't screaming at a kid all the time and not doing anything, not following up, not following through. That's that's just teaching them. That's teaching them something else. That's not teaching them what I want to teach them. I want to teach them that I'll do what I say I'm going to do. Period. If I say it and you do it, then I'm gonna do what I said I was going to do. Because that's how life is. Because if you whatever you do, if you hit your hand with a hammer, it's gonna hurt. Not sometimes, not 50% of the time, not if the hammer feels like it, not if the hammer's not bored or whatever. Every single time you hit your hand with a hammer, it's gonna hurt. There are consequences for that shit. And there's a lot of that through life. That's a very simple example, but there's a lot of that through life where it's gonna hurt every single time. And kids need to know that going into these things. There are consequences. Jail sucks. Paying child support for 20 years sucks. These different things, they suck. And there are consequences for these actions. You do X, you're going to get Y. Period. End of story every single time. Hey, Jeff 7. Good morning, buddy. Glad to see you here, man. Where you at, Jeff? Trying to see where Jeff is at. I'm surprised. I'm surprised old Vintage isn't on here. He's usually on here watching my videos first thing in the morning for me. I think it's just before he goes to bed in Australia with his frozen strawberry milk. Yeah, he's got a drink he drinks every night while he watches my show. Ohio. Oh, nice. How's the weather up there, Jeff? Is it still cold? It's starting to warm up here in Florida. We had a pretty cold winter. We had it get down below freezing a couple times. And we're just talking about consequences for our actions and nature versus nurture, how we're raising kids today. We as a society as a whole, how we frown on corporal punishment. And back in the day, we had the principal, he had that big paddle with the holes in it and shit. And I remember looking at those holes and like, damn, that's serious shit. that allows him to swing harder. That's gonna hurt more because of the holes in it. It didn't, but it was just for visual effect, I guess. So yeah, they used to be. I doubt anywhere in America where a principal can still deal out a spanking. No, Keith. No, we didn't get any light snow. I'm too far south for that. Up on the Panhandle, they got some snow for real. They had snow on the beach in the Panhandle. That was pretty cool. I saw pictures of it, but no. Yeah. Okay. So Jeff, you've got the weather that we had about a month ago. Yeah. I like it. Highs in the 50s and 60s. We're already up in the 80s, sweating our asses off out there. I work outside. I don't know if you saw my shorts I've been putting up there working on that trailer, working on that tiny house. But yeah, working outside, and then the summer's coming. That's the thing about Florida. It's not just, it's not it is the heat, but not only the heat. It's because the heat starts and it'll start mid to late March or April, and then it'll last through October. We've got, summer here is like 6 months long, 97 degrees, 100% humidity every day. You wake up, you go outside at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you're soaked in sweat before you can get in your vehicle. It's the humidity is brutal. Yeah. I love winter here, but the summers are just insane. You gotta just continually chug water. You don't quit sweating. You just don't. Not me. I don't. You just sweat. That's the main. What do I want to say? That's the main thing we do in the summer is sweat. Yeah, it's just too humid. All right, y'all. I got to get ready for work. It's that time, so I'm gonna sign off. And hey, anybody who watches this and any of y'all who've been here with me, please let me know what you think about this, how I'm doing this live stream in the morning, okay, versus the way I used to do it. Because the only real difference will be that, I don't have the music and stuff in the beginning yet. I don't know if YouTube has a way for me to add that in there. I will if I can, but it may not. I just glanced through there briefly this morning when I started to do this. Like I say, I work and I don't have a whole lot of time, but I'll try to figure it out. But worst case scenario, that will be the main difference, is that I don't have that intro thing, with my music. So let me know what you think. Would you rather, be able to stumble across a live stream and chat like we're doing now? Or would you rather have it the old way where I recorded it and then posted it the next day? All right. So if you would give me your opinion on that in the chat, or you can email me, genxthinks@gmail.com. Okay, let's see. We got some questions here. Oh, Rusty Doob. What's going on, buddy? Canada. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, good to see you from Canada, man. You see all that shit online. Everybody's mad. Canadians are mad at us, and we're mad at Canadians, I guess. But I'm not mad at you. We're us Gen Xers. We ignore that shit. Whatever, dudes. Do what y'all want. Get mad at Trump. Don't get mad at him. Tariff each other. I don't care. Yeah. Okay, Lek. Good to know. Yeah, so just let me know what y'all think of these live streams like this in the morning, because I'm going to do it the rest of this week. And then if it works out and everybody likes it, I'll keep doing it this way. If not, I'll go back to the old way. All right. And I'll leave you there with that. As always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.